Thank you all. Where will I go first? I'll go to the first. Rhoda. So if we go, you don't have to touch anything, don't worry. It's always best when you don't have to do any work. So you started playing with Dublin back in, was it 1987?
I would have played with Rathcoole at the very beginning when they were the only team in Dublin, so therefore they were the de facto Dublin team.
And at what point then were there players from elsewhere?
It would have developed. We played with Rathcoole in '85, wasn't it? And then Rathcoole kind of disbanded and formed several teams, Park Rangers, I'm not sure, I think Marino, UCD, and so from then other players started coming in and started broadening out, to teams from other clubs and that. So that was kind of '86.
And can you remember what it was like back then?
Well, it was great crack.
And that was before she started playing, was it?
Leave me alone.
But it was. We really enjoyed playing football. I played football as a kid. I grew up playing football, and I just loved playing football. And when I got involved in Dublin, I was playing soccer in Dublin, and I met Trisha Hickey, the famous Trisha Hickey, and walking out. The first time I met her walking out onto a soccer pitch, she said, "Would you have any interest in playing Gaelic football?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." But we trained hard, and a lot of people were playing more than one code. So there weren't, people were playing soccer, they were playing camogie, for the Dublin team trained in the Phoenix Park. I think you remember that yourself.
I do remember that.
And we trained there for many years until we got the use of Westmanstown. I think they moved on to. But so the training conditions were basic. You didn't even have the use of a loo at the training facilities. So, but that's not. People were very dedicated, and the training was tough. Brendan Dardis and Eamon here, they used to run us up and down the hills in the Phoenix Park, around the Arsenal there in the Phoenix Park, and really put us through our paces. And people were training with their clubs as well, and probably training and playing another sport on top of that. So the fitness level and the skill level, we were just talking about it there, coming in, and there was some fantastic footballers around then. Obviously, the commitment now to the modern footballer and how, shall we say, clean living they have to be compared to maybe we
What do you suggest, Rhoda?
So, after a match or that, you always went for a drink, So just one or two, but it was a real social. Activity as well as a very serious sporting activity, but so now you see the commitment that the players have, and it's 100%, and they have to give it everything, So and it's such wonderful to see that it's developed to that level, to see the support that the players get. It's just fantastic,
It's just complete coincidence that I'm now moving on to you down the end, Christina. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed, Michelle thinks she's off the hook because there's one less microphone, but they do actually move, Michelle. So we will be making our way down to you.
No, I don't want to talk.
Were you only 13 when you played for Dublin for the first time?
Yeah, back in 1988, so 13 years of age with all the older ladies.
What was that like?
More or less what Rhoda said, yeah. It was great crack. I'm glad you're asking the questions and not talking about me, because I won't tell the truth. I remember the hills in the Phoenix Park, and I remember we had to run up and down it 5 times. I only did it 3. I hid in the bushes one time. Brendan didn't know where I was. That's coming out now, Brendan and Eamon. But with the facilities and the different things that we had, we're very poor in the Phoenix Park. No toilets or anything like that. But we did have great crack, and it did progress. The game progressed, and I was lucky enough to play then when it progressed up to when I played under Mick Bogan then in 2001 and that. So I seen a huge change from 1988 to 2001, and it was great. We had great crack, and it did change from the, as Rhoda says, the social end of things. We were straight on that bus, and Joanne, you'd know some of the stories from the buses back in the time.
No, because I was sitting up the front, and I had no idea what was going on behind me.
You've seen a little bit, but no, the change in the game, it's fantastic. The skill level that has improved as well, and the people you meet the people that I met, and coming into this room this evening is brilliant, and thanks to the people who have organised it, meeting players that I played with, played against, and had battles on the pitches and crack in the pub.
Wasn't that the thing about the teams, say the 80s and 90s, certainly, and I'd love to hear if it was with the teams, the huge mix of it. It didn't matter what club you were from. There was this unbelievable bond all the way throughout.
Absolutely, and like I'm still friends with Maureen King and Julie Cavan. The three of us are still ploughing along, and that's since back in 1988, which is, you know, we went out a few weeks ago as well. We're still meeting up all the time, and
The cinema trip, yeah?
The cinema, we didn't get. We didn't make it to the cinema. We were meant to go to the cinema. We met in Thomas Davis, and the sun was out in the balcony, and that was the end of the cinema. But fair play to King, or she went off and got the popcorn because we paid for it and brought it back to the balcony. And they were the stories that would have happened over the years, and that as well. Yeah, great stories.
So you went all the way up to Mick's first time coming in, and what would you say, apart from the bus on the way home, what would you say were the biggest, in terms of training, in terms of matches, what were the biggest changes you saw down through the years?
Huge professionalism Mick brought to the game, and his standards, like the standards just went way up. Now it was building up before that, but he just came in and just knocked us for six. Like we got off a bus one day, I won't mention any names, with Mick Bowen, our first bus trip, right? We were expecting the usual. Some girl got a Mars bar, he took it off her. That wasn't, you know, you're not allowed chocolate. She had to go back and get an apple in the shop, where we used to be coming in with cans and bottles, and that was true though, Michelle, that were the days.
I can confirm that was true.
Yeah. And there'd be a sing song, and if you were new, you had to sing a song. Do you remember that?
I don't recall singing. I think
we left you quiet up the front.
Took pity on me. Denise, do you remember what it was like then when you came in? Because was it also Mick's first reign that you would have come in?
It was actually Patricia Monaghan and Bernice. I started playing with the Dublin junior team, or the senior B team. They were the junior B at the time. But I'd be very different to the girls because I started playing much later. So I was 23, so I wouldn't have been brought in and compromised, I suppose, as a younger player the way other people would have been.
So they had no age restriction on the compromising.
Yeah. So it would have been very different. But the fact that we had Patricia and Bernice involved, like, there would have been standards set. We still wouldn't have had everything that they had today, but we had people. So my introduction to football would have been two women who were very passionate about it and set really high standards. So I suppose I was really lucky coming into that. And I was only with the junior B maybe a year, and then we were brought up to the senior panel. But no, Mick was gone at that stage. It was John O'Leary. So again, it was a very professional setup. And now, don't get me wrong, we had a couple of years there where we had a couple of wobbles, and I remember a couple of seasons where we were talking out with 5 people, and we were down in Kerry. I remember somebody was bleeding and they had to go off with a blood sub, and we had no subs to come on. Like, we travelled to Kerry with 15 players minimum, so we did have tough days, and then people came in and brought it up again. So I suppose I did a bit of a roller coaster in terms of I came in at a very high level, it probably dipped and came back up again.
That's funny, because I was going to say to you that it was quite different, because obviously when Rhoda came in, it was the very, very start, and everybody was probably just guessing their way along, and Christina pretty soon after that. And I was going to say, and of course you came in just before all the success happened, but not completely true.
No, it wouldn't. It certainly wasn't a linear journey like that at all, no. There would have been challenges, different people came involved. Camillus got involved then as well, and that again just kicked it on another level in terms of the commitment from the county board to the team. There were always the players there, but I suppose just maybe a little bit of uncertainty through the years. And then when you had people like the county board working like that, the management and the team, and I suppose even when I was finishing, it wouldn't have been the setup that maybe Michelle or that would have been used to then in later years. I mean, we wouldn't have had necessarily the same coverage, or that kicked on even further. So I think it has been a slow burner, but I think all the time with the people that were involved, that it was only going in one direction.
It was. You did have some dark days on the pitch though, didn't you?
The odd one or two, yeah.
But it is the pattern of this, before we even get to Michelle, like that is what it seems, that if you're playing within this county, you have to get some crap before you get the good days, yes?
Yeah, and like the crack still happens on the good day or on the bad days. Funnily enough, like some of the losses or some of the rightly or wrongly some of the better nights we had out. I think because you find such comfort in the group, and after big losses, particularly I suppose in the All Ireland final to Cork, and particularly the one maybe in 2009, and obviously the one in 2014. That's the only final everyone wants to talk about. But like after those games, I suppose, because you're in that bubble, and like Christina said, it's always got to do with the bond with the players, and it was such a tight group, and you can still, within the dark days on the pitch, there's still the crack. And I think even as professional as it got, I think when you put a group like that in a changing room together or on a pitch together, there's always crack, and I'm sure it's the same now, but yeah, look, we had some tough days, but it galvanised us more, and like I said, there was always people coming in trying to kick it on another step, and I suppose that keeps you going. And then obviously we were lucky enough to be part of the team that won it for the first time in 2010.
It was a lot more than looking at. I think there was a huge amount of hard work as well as skill as well. Do you remember the moment that the end came to the match and Dublin were finally champions?
Yeah, I do, but we were so far ahead, I think, against Tyrone that day. It was funny because we'd probably had so many close battles with the likes of Cork and Monaghan and actually even Laois that year, and we'd probably been put to the pin of our collar in a lot of the games. So in the final, it all just clicked, and it didn't necessarily click in the run up to it. There's always stuff going on in the background as well. But on the day, it just clicked, and I remember Kathleen Kilreevy on the line. We could have been 14 points up. I'm not sure what we were. There was probably only a couple of minutes to go. But actually, when I think about it now and think about what happened in 2014, I was right, because I remember Kathleen thinking we have it, and I was saying, Kathleen, please, no. We've had such, like we were playing till the final whistle that day, and it didn't matter the scoreline, So I think I was starting to process it maybe for the last kick out. I could see the clock running down. I knew there was no way, there was no comeback on at that stage. But I actually don't really remember the going up the steps or that part of it. It was the aftermath or just being with the girls. But it was a little bit surreal. I think when we wanted something so bad for so long and we'd worked so hard for it, it was more seeing people that had meant a lot on the journey. Like I know I singled out a couple of women in the speech, and I'll correct it now, in my excitement I called Camillus Fitzpatrick, and he's never let me live it down, so Camillus Kilpatrick. But it was three women, and again, funnily enough, it was Kathleen Kilreevy, Patricia Monaghan, Bernice and Anne that I singled out, because they'd been four such powerful, strong women leading the way. And then when you see the ladies here today, like I find it really inspiring, to be honest, and looking at the ladies who came up, who started it. And I just think that that's such a, no more than Helen, just really strong women leading it. And for me, that was a huge thing when we won the final, that I got to call out those ladies, in particular, their names when I won.
The same names being mentioned tonight, all these years later. It's unreal. Unbelievable. Hand her the mic there.
Everyone's trying to give up their mic.
She's happy to, but she'll get it back as well, don't worry. When I was playing, there was initially no Kilmacud Crokes. There was initially no Ballymunkickums playing either. And Portobello were the initial ones who were absolutely ruling the roost, and then it went on to be Ballyboden. So when Crokes were getting so close, and it was Foxrock, Cabinteely who just kept on getting in the way. So what happened, do you think, down through the years with Crokes, that you built, and you finally found the way to get over that line?
Well, I think it would be totally remiss to speak about Kilmacud ladies football and not mention, I know it's been mentioned already tonight, but John Sheridan, as well as Daisy McGee. Lauren would never let me forget it if I didn't mention Daisy. But the two of them were absolutely seminal in setting up the club, and like the beginning, end and everything of Kilmacud ladies football was John Sheridan, and it's a legacy that his son kind of is supporting him in today, and both his sons, Brian and Rory, and you can really see him in them certainly, and his brother Pat. But yeah, like John was such a passionate advocate of ladies football that I think he got it running pretty much, like hit the ground running in 95. And that was the year I was born. So I guess our first intermediate final, I think it was in 2000, and we went straight back down to intermediate from senior. So it was like a very much a building process. And then I guess the first year that we would have tasted a little bit of success, that felt like it was building towards something was with Camillus in 2014 after being beaten by Ginty in 2013. We won't talk about that. But yeah, and it was so instrumental, that kind of 10 years, and there's a lot of other people obviously involved in that, but no more than Yvonne, Pat Sheridan, John Sheridan, and obviously kind of in the more recent years, Joan Keogh has obviously been absolutely instrumental in getting the club to where it is now. But I guess, yeah, we were banging on the door for years. We felt like we were up there, thereabouts, and Foxrock just kept beating us. But like, isn't it the nature of sport that it all goes in cycles, no more than with Cork or with Dublin at the ladies level as well. But we're just happy that we are on this cycle.
But that cycle doesn't necessarily always come to pass. Lots of people get close and then they never get over the line, and then the cycle is over. So what do you think happened for you that it changed?
So I think we were a long time building that belief. I definitely think there was a period maybe from that 2014, that intermediate. We got to an All-Ireland semi that year. We were very unlucky down bloody Castle Island Desmonds. And for the next 5 years, we had a team that was probably majority between maybe, on that 2014 team, we had all still minor, Ava Rutledge, Lauren McGee, Aoife Kane, among others. We had a team that was probably 17 to 19 primarily. And we were really hard on ourselves. We were quite harsh, I think, from about 2015 to maybe when we first made the final in 2019 out there, and it was still one of the best occasions of my life. Like, that 2019 final against Foxrock was the loudest stadium, like no more than Croke Park. It was the loudest stadium I've ever been in, and it was a brilliant day, albeit the result didn't go with us. But again, I think we were very harsh, and rather than looking on all of those years as building blocks, we probably looked at them as failures. I think that's not something we do anymore. And I think it's probably a testament to us getting so far last year, and it was amazing. But I think mindset-wise, it's definitely changed from about 6 or 7 years ago, where like that wasn't a phenomenal achievement, and I don't look at it as a failure, certainly. So I think that probably changed, and maybe that's just incremental. Maybe that just needs time sometimes. But yeah, we were very lucky to get over the line and against Thomas Davis in 22 anyway. So we're thankful there again.
Yeah, she's nodding her head. Very, very lucky, she says. I've heard Christina talk about Davis's. You hear Rhoda here beside you. Rhoda, 38 years with Robert Emmett. Is that true? In some capacity?
Yes, I haven't been counting, but yeah, when I do look back.
but just listening to Michelle there and the people involved with her club and around him, there's always seems to be these people that just make sure that everything happens.
Yeah. I mean, you don't like Robert Emmett and no more than yourselves. Way back in the 90s, we were in the 80s and 90s. We were in 5 finals in a row. Before there was the 5th one before we won the senior championship. So Monica's, I think Tricia beat us in one. Yeah, and. But it builds resilience in you as a player, builds resilience in you as a squad, and but you need the people at club level to help you to get on. I remember Nigel Noon, I think, came in as a manager in 1990, and we won the league that year, and then the following year we won the league and the championship. So you learn hard lessons when you lose a championship, particularly when you lose 4 in a row. But you learn lessons, and if you don't, and that brings you forward then for to strength to go on and win it, and win the senior championship is not easy. I mean, anyone here from any club that has won one or lost one or been in the run for one knows the work that goes into it, and it takes a whole club to get a team to win a championship. And there's been great people in Robert Emmett. I see someone here, Tricia Hickey, has been a stalwart, through the years. Siobhan Malone, Siobhan Allen isn't here tonight. She's been, fantastic for Robert Emmett through the years, bringing young teams through the club, and that. So it takes a whole club to build to get to it, to win a championship or to get you there. So but and you just have to keep going. Those days that you lose, as you were saying, when you lose, you just have to keep going. You pick yourself up and you go on. You say, okay, we'll go again. So but it's just it's the friends you make on the journey, and the people you meet, even in other clubs, and the friends. I mean, I look around the room here and I know most people in it over the years, and have worked with them either on the committee or, met them on the side of the pitch or played with them or that. So you build huge friendships over the years. And I'm still in contact with, the girls, some of the ones from the original Robert Emmett team going back when we won in 91, and loads of players over the years, who've played for Dublin or who aspired to play for Dublin. That it just builds a bond, and that you can go back to. It doesn't matter if you haven't seen somebody in 10 years. You can just pick right back up with them where you left off. Like Christina played with Robert Emmett and won our first championship with Robert Emmett, and then moved on to our home club to Thomas Davis when they set up a ladies team. But you can just walk into a room and just pick right back up where you left off.
And sometimes it can be more as well than just getting to finals, because Christina, you had to watch as your club disbanded and you didn't have a women's team for a few years, and that's horrible.
Right. And we're talking about struggles here, and some clubs did struggle along the way which was like when I was growing up, there was no juvenile football, and when the juvenile football started then within Dublin, it was fantastic because they were making ladies teams just true ladies. But then when you had the juveniles, then that's where the progression and that's where the numbers started growing and growing, and whoever's idea came up with it or whoever forced it, the Dublin committee, to get the juveniles, which is brilliant because back in the day I had to play with the boys. There was no girls section, so that's where I started playing as well.
And how hard was it then? So when Davis's, not when you were a child, but when you were older, when you're in your prime, that's when Davis's kind of went and you had to go off, play elsewhere, but as soon as they were back up and running, you were in there like a shot, right?
Everyone knows this. Davis's is always my home. It's my family. We've all grown up there. My dad played there, and we've all played. My sisters all played there. My brother, and now all the nieces and nephews are all playing. So it's your home. It's where your heart is. And Thomas Davis, and everyone understood that Thomas Davis was always my heart. That's where I started playing when I was 8 years of age with the boys.
And Michelle, just beside you, because obviously you've been playing with Dublin very recently as well, and they do have a big game coming up this weekend as well. So where do you see the Dubs going this year?
Oh God, that's a loaded question.
No pressure. No pressure in this room.
Loaded question. Yeah. No, listen, and I think it's been a year of huge transition for them. Certainly. Like you can see that kind of in the youth coming up, and what Paul and Derek seem to have done is back an awful lot of those young girls, which is fantastic to see. Like even if it's a year where you learn a lot about yourselves as a team, a lot about yourselves as players, you still have those stalwarts. Like you see Hannah Tyrrell, who I know was involved in my Dublin under 16 team as a goalkeeping coach under Fergal Brennan, which was hilarious when she came back to Dublin then. But you still have the stalwarts, but I think it's really encouraging to see Derek and Paul putting a lot of emphasis on that younger crop coming through, and certainly they're doing the business. Like I just really admire the kind of strength and depth in the panel at the moment. Like, and again, if it's a year that you just find out an awful lot about yourself, that's still a win.
Yeah, I suppose it shows as well, Denise, that we're all still growing within this room and within Dublin football as well. Why don't you finish it off and see where you see we've come from in 40 years and where we might go on from here, and the work that still has to be done and continues to have to be done all over the place.
Yeah, and I suppose like Christina said about coming into the room and seeing, or I think everyone has actually mentioned it, knowing all the different faces, and I suppose that's the advantage maybe that the men's organisation have, that they have maybe more generations behind them playing, so 40 years is still very young, and I think it's really important to try and have the intergenerational part of it, that we try and keep connected in some way, because I think there's such strength and there's so many good people involved. And I think to make sure we support them, I think it can be very easy to tip your hat and say, God, they're doing a great job, and maybe not get stuck in and do anything yourself. Patricia could ring me with anything and I will just never say no to her, because I think...
because you're too scared?
No, it's actually just purely because I just feel when you've people doing the jobs that they do, there's nothing that she would ring and ask me to do that I'd say no to be honest, and I think it has to be that level of kind of giving back as well. I think it's incumbent on us as past players, because, I just think it's the four of us sitting up here as players when maybe it should have been four of the, they put the hard work in, they don't necessarily get, and I think we've all got such... I know in my life it's certainly been enriched for having been introduced to football and coming across so many fantastic people, you know. So I suppose for me, in order for it to keep going in the direction it is, it's to make sure that we learn from the people that come before us, and then to make sure that we try, if we do gain any wisdom along the way, to pass it on to what's coming behind us. And I do think that that's the piece in ladies football that will keep improving, you know, that we just keep having that intergenerational maybe connection, that we make sure that we're passing it on all the time.
Well, I would say the reason they probably did put all that work in down the years is so that we could have 4 women like you up on this stage having achieved what you have done. So a big thank you to everybody for all their service down through the years, and thank you to Christina, to Michelle, to Rhoda and to Denise.